Welcome, 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 everybody, to the Blessed Girl Summer Podcast, where we learn to live, love, and grow. And I'm so excited about our guest today. I have one of my friends with us, who is Kim Flores, who is a board certified nurse practitioner and the founder of Frosty Health. Which is where she helps people with their well being from a holistic perspective. And so I'm super excited to have Kim on the podcast today. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. I just gave a real brief overview of who you are and what you do, but I would love for you to share a little bit more about yourself with our audience, with ladies listening.
So, my name is Kim Flores. I have been a nurse for about 14 years now. I had been working as a nurse practitioner when I decided in 2022 to leave my practice full time and start a business. One of the reasons I did this was because I felt like I wasn't truly helping people get healthier. I was giving them prescriptions, I was putting band-aids on their problems, and really wasn't educating them enough to say, okay, this is how you can prevent this from happening versus just treating it after the fact. Little things like being overweight, instead of treating their blood pressure and their diabetes, I wanted to truly teach them how to eat healthy. And so that's what I am doing in my business now, where I help people get healthier more from a holistic standpoint, whether they are taking medications for things like hypertension, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, any of those things, or if they have any sort of functional issues like chronic constipation, irritable bowel syndrome, chronic reflux, eczema, any things of those sort, I help them from the non-traditional healthcare side of things to help them get better. And it truly is about a transformation from the inside out. I tell this to all my clients, if you don't change what's going up here in your mind, nothing else is going to matter. And so there's a focus on you as a whole human being, not just the physical, but the emotional and the spiritual as well.
I love that. It sounds like, as opposed to just giving someone a prescription to try to remedy a symptom, it's more about changing the lifestyle. And
100%.
as we think about like our living, which we talk about here all the time, there are some intentional, practical things that we have to implement in order to, whether it be readjusting our thinking or readjusting specifically some things that we are doing. And so I love that you're taking that holistic approach to healthcare.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, so I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today. We have been talking about soul care and self-care and the importance of this. And I know just from your intro that you have a great understanding of the necessity of being able to live a well life, right? And so I would love for you, I've been asking all my guests to share with us why this has become so important. I know that you've talked about your experience as a nurse practitioner, but typically there's something that happens personally, like within your life, that you experience that really brings you to this place of change. And so
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your story.
So it's ironic because I do run a health and wellness coaching company, and it's from a holistic standpoint. Um, Over this past year, even as running this health coaching company full time, I, for the first time, experienced a full on burnout mentally, emotionally, physically. Like my body started shutting down on me. I was having to take naps every day because I was just so exhausted. I had stomach pain with anything and everything I was eating. It even hurt me to drink water. I was, and this is TMI, but my specialty is GI, so I talk about poop all the time. I was pooping undigested food. So my GI tract was essentially shutting down. I was gaining weight and I wasn't changing my eating. So I was like, why? Why am I gaining weight? My periods were stopping, and I'm like, wait a second, I'm too early for menopause and I still want kids. What happened to my period? So through a series of going to doctors, which this is just leaves me more motivated to do what I do. I got gaslit by two different doctors who did all these labs, which were normal, which some of the labs were in fact not normal. Said I was fine, that I was just stressed and I needed to stress less. What kind of intervention is that to tell me to just stress less? But what does that actually look like for me? And so I've had to go through this whole entire process of finding the right testing to get real answers, which I'm now certified to do for my own clients, and then taking true steps to learn how to manage stress. So it's not about taking the stressors away, because whoever's listening to this, we all have stress in our life. It may look
Right.
like different stress, right? But
Right.
we all have stress. So it's a matter
Right.
of how do we, and I like to look at it as like a proverbial bucket that's full of water, and that water is the stress. How do we get some of that water out of that stress bucket so that you have more room to handle and manage that stress versus trying to minimize? Because it's a losing battle if we're trying to minimize our stress. So through a series of different supplementations to help me get better, through some hormone therapy, and from learning how to slow down,
Did you
I
say a
have
cuss word?
learned.
Slowing down.
This is on the slow. That's why I'm saying it slowly. It changed my life, and dare I say, it saved my life, because I was to a point where I couldn't function, and my business took the brunt of it. Because if you're a one man show, like if you're not showing up for it, things aren't going to work. So now that I'm on the other side, I have learned a lot, and has only made me a better coach, a better business owner, and I finally have learned the art of slowing down.
Have to share with us. So, a couple of things about what you said. While you were talking, I'm like, this is what we're talking about. Stress is a part of life, but how do we navigate life is the thing. And I love that you brought that up because that piece is so important. We can't run from everything,
Mm-hmm.
but how do we create space in our daily living to allow us to be able to handle the brunt of the things that come, at us. And so I
Yes.
love that you shared that. Then, so you said slowing down, which seems to be a major issue. And I love that you bring that up because a part of what I'll be sharing later with our practical tip has to do with slowing down. How did you do that? First of all, how was that feeling when you discovered that this was something that is a necessity for you? What kind of feelings arose in you, and how are you able to move past, I'm sure, that initial discomfort of doing that?
The first word that comes to mind is terror, complete and utter terror. Because if you slow down, that means you have to release some control over your life. It's impossible for me to continue this story without bringing my faith into it, because that was a very large component. Because the beginning of my slowing down was a process of surrendering for the first time in my life, truly surrendering to God as my one and only source, and knowing that regardless of what was going to happen through this process, if I lost my business, if I lost all my friends, if I lost all my money, I knew that God was going to provide for me. And that was like the mainstay of my slowing down, is reminding myself of that every day, that God will provide, God will provide, God will provide. And so, how did it look practically, right? Like, if someone were listening to this right now, like, okay, so how do I do it? First things first, I stopped working out so much, which, if anyone else in any other capacity were to say that, you'd be like, that's unhealthy. But for me, it was the best thing I could have done, because I was training competitively, which was contributing to my burnout. I was going to the gym for like 2 hours a day. And so I finally had to say, okay, this is not serving you in this season. So I started walking. I walked 10,000 steps a day, and I thought it was the dumbest thing. I'm like walking and I'm not sweating. And the whole time, the first couple months, I'm like, this is stupid. I'm not even sweating. This isn't a workout. But if I try to go to the gym right now, I will feel like I'm dying. So I'm stuck with walking. So I started walking instead of going to the gym. I started prioritizing 8 hours of sleep. Like, it was the most important thing of my day, and it was. And so I was strictly in bed by 9 o'clock. I would not, I used to wake up at 4 to 5 a.m. I was waking up at 6, 7 o'clock now. And slow mornings. That is by far the biggest change. Instead of getting up out of bed and running, I spent the first 1 to 2 hours of my day with God, reading my
Hmm.
Bible, watching sermons, journaling and reflecting, praying over anything I was going to read or study and saying, God, speak to me. What do you have to say to me today about what I'm reading? And giving myself that space to reflect. Because if you don't take the time to reflect on all of this that you're doing, you're not going to learn anything. And so slowing down my mornings set the tone for the rest of my day. And then it was just a matter of getting in touch with what was authentic to me and what wasn't. Learning to run a business the way I was meant to run a business via the vision that God gave me versus trying to fit my business into the box of what everyone else was running their business like.
I love,
So yeah.
like, let me just say, my whole spirit is like leaping. Who was it? The baby leaped in their stomach. Like my listening to you because, I've been a part of the journey when you were like
Going,
striving. Right, right. When you were like striving, like, no, this has got to happen like this. And so I
I'm so
remember
sorry
that.
that you had to deal with me in that season.
But to see like what you're saying now and the growth is just like it feels like miraculous because so many things. Like I wanted to fall out my chair because I'm like, this is what I've been talking about, right? Surrender. Yo, that is something that is such like a hard thing to do. But when you walk in it, like when you commit to it and when you do it, the peace that the piece that is your portion is almost like a superpower. I don't even
Mm-hmm.
know if I'm explaining it well because it's like I was talking about this with another group and we were talking about the Holy Spirit and we were talking about um, our obedience. Like we can hear God saying something and He can tell us certain things, but it's the obedience that is like the changing factor. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes our flesh, most of the time, competing against that. But when we push
100%.
back and we step into that obedience, that thing is so much better than we ever could have imagined. And then we're kind of like, why do we always fight this thing? Why don't we just move in this direction? And so I know surrender is such a big thing. And because it's such a big thing, it's something that we have to consciously do every day.
Yeah.
And so starting your day, slowing your day down, I think empowers you to be able to make that decision to
Mm-hmm.
surrender on that day.
And there's another part to it that I need everyone to hear because it's something that a lot of people don't talk about, and that's addiction. When I was really burnt out and I was at my worst, I went to church one day and I heard the most audible voice of God I've ever heard in that service. And the preacher it was this thing where they were like, put up your glow stick if you want God to do this for you, whatever. And his question was, do you want healing for your body? And in my mind and in my heart, I said, I need you to heal me, God. And immediately he told me, stop Adderall. I've been on Adderall for 13 years. 13 years. And even though I never abused the drug, I was physically addicted to it because it is an addictive drug. And I was using it the right way. But God was like, no more, because I realize now that with me taking Adderall, it was like a slap in the face to God saying, I don't trust you. I don't trust the way you made me. You made me with ADHD, which I've been clinically diagnosed, which is how I got the prescription. But I don't trust you. I think you made a mistake. So I'm going to self medicate and fix the problem. So God, clear as day, said, stop Adderall. And I went through this huge struggle of breaking my addiction and slowly tapering off of Adderall. It was a very, very dark season. That was last summer. So I've been completely off of Adderall for 10 months now because I had to go back on it and then I had to do a slow taper. Don't recommend coming off medications cold turkey. I don't care what the medication is. Please seek medical assistance.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I was through that hump of Adderall, God was like, stop drinking. What do you mean, God? I don't drink that much. I don't drink that often. I don't want you to drink anything. So when you're talking about obedience, I love me a glass of wine. I said, nope, not one. And for months, I pushed it. Tisha, I pushed it. I said, just one. It won't hurt. the alcohol started making me so physically ill. Like I could
Mm.
drink one glass of wine and I would be physically sick for like 4 or 5 days. And all I could hear was the Holy Spirit saying, I told you to quit. I told you to quit. I told you to quit. And it dawned on me, when we are in a season of slowing down and being obedient to the word of God, it is never from this place of judgment. I fought it for so long because I saw God as this all punishing God trying to set so many rules around me. And it hit me one day. God knows me inside and out, knows every single cell of my body, and knows what's going to hurt me. So he is gently trying to pull me away from those things that are hurting me. And so I wake up every day and I surrender it to God, not to live by my flesh, but through God.
I love it. So thank you for sharing and being so transparent, and vulnerable. Can you explain what Adderall is supposed to do or what it does for you?
Yeah, I still think about it every day. I miss it, but I will never go back to it. It's a
Hmm.
stimulant drug. The best way that I can explain it was when I took that medication, it unlocked a piece of my brain that helped me to think clearly and focus on one task at a time, to where I could work on a project. I could stare at the computer for 2, 3 hours straight and get so much done. But without the Adderall, I work in 30-minute increments now. I can only focus my attention for 30 minutes on a good day. If it's a bad day, I can't focus at all. And I have to accept that that's how I am, at least in this season, and just run with it and
Mhm.
trust that God will provide either way.
Do you feel like the Adderall contributed to your burnout? Like you're going,
100%.
going and going and going because it's like
100%.
the off button wasn't there anymore because it was just like I have all this extra energy that I
Mm-hmm.
have to now expend. Okay.
Yes, 100%. So I started getting warning signs and I was ignoring them because I would just pop the pill and everything would be fine. And I would just see the world through rose colored glasses. But if I would have taken a drug holiday, I would have felt just how terrible I really felt, just how sick I really, really was.
Yeah. And I asked you that because when you were talking, I felt like I heard the Lord saying it's when he wants to shift things is when things become a substitute for him. And so I was like, let me get clarity on what Adderall is because I don't want, everybody who's might be taking Adderall to be like, oh, the Lord wants me to stop taking it, right? And so I think that some of the things that God, like you said, knows about us individually is
Mm-hmm.
when we're using things, the Adderall and the drinking, to be a substitute for something, for a need that He wants to meet for us. And so I love that you shared that because I know even for myself, like he been talking to me about some things that are like we got to be careful that things are not a substitute for the space that he wants to fill and the healing that he
Yeah.
wants to bring.
That was a smack in the face for me when I stopped the Adderall. I recognized there was so much unprocessed trauma that I was able to just kind of like suppress and brush off because I was living every single day with my brain flooded with dopamine from the drug, and it hit me. And I agree 100% with everything you just said, that God wanted this space in my life and I was using these substitutes, and I was obedient and I did take them away, and it was so hard, so difficult. But I recognize, okay, there's a lot of stuff that I needed to heal from. I needed to see God as source and not business, not money, not anything. And I was. And I admit to that now. But now that all of these addictions, all of these fleshly things in my life have been taken away, I do surrender to God every single day because it's like, I have another choice. I can't pop an Adderall and just,
Right,
so I
right.
got to pray real hard.
So let me ask you, since you've made the shift and you made the adjustments and you've surrendered, what type of fruit have you been experiencing as a result?
Dare I say that the very house I'm sitting in right now that we custom built in the same year that was the worst year of my life health wise is one of the fruits that I will forever be grateful for because I still don't understand how we got this house. A lot of miracles took place around this house. That's one of the fruits. There were so many days going through all of that that I had to pray to God desperately to help me lead my Thursday because I lead a Bible study group on my own on Thursdays. And I have no idea how I showed up, like how I even had the energy to form words and lead these women through that season. And He did. And the fruit of that is I still have that group and I've been transparent with them about what I was going through and they still support me. They still love me and they're still there. All of this taught me business wise that trying to be online and run a business 100% through social media is not authentic to me. And God was calling me to build community. So I have a contract with my neighborhood homeowners association where I'm doing monthly cooking demos for my community to build that. I've joined a chamber of commerce, so I'm building tons of relationships throughout the city. Real people. I'm getting out of the house. I'm not staring at a computer all day every day, which is not healthy. I get real human interaction now, and those are just a few of the examples of some of the fruit that I've seen because I know that there's so much more to come.
I love it. I feel like it has unlocked other doors for you. Like the
Mhm.
obedience unlocked other doors. And I think that I love that you share that because typically I ask about like community and relationships and how that has been beneficial to help you maintain your self care or soul care. But even in your answer, it's kind of like almost the fruit of maintaining self care and soul care is now some new open doors and some other relationships in some ways that you're now you now have more capacity to build with other folks, right? And
Yes.
so I don't want to answer your question. Well, I
No,
guess
you
the
hit it
answer.
spot on. You hit it spot on. And community was one of the pieces that had been missing for me because when I was taking Adderall, it was all on me. Everything was on my shoulders. I can do everything myself. I don't need community. But in reality, everyone needs community. And for the first time in my life, because I've moved so many times, I was doing travel work for so long. I never took that time to build community where I was at. And so I've got this beautiful home in this community that I love where I'm actually able to do that because I know I'm going to be here for a while.
I wish he was in my community, girl, teaching us how. I'm like, that is so cool. I wish somebody was doing that.
Fun too. I have a lot of fun doing
I
it.
see your food. You pray for me. I'm still trying to get it together, child. I don't know, I don't have a joy for the cooking. I do have a joy for tasting different things and it tasting good and being healthy. I just don't have a joy for the process. So I need to
I
pray.
think anyone has a joy for the process when they first get started. It's rough when you first get started.
Yeah, it's changing the pray, just pray for me. Just keep praying.
I'm gonna pray for you.
So a question I like to ask everybody um, that I want to ask you as well is what would you've gone through a lot of changes and adjustments and I would love to hear what your perfect soul retreat or oasis would look like if you could participate in one or have one. What would that be like for you?
Nature, lots of nature, no people, still diehard introvert no matter what. Silence, just the sounds of nature, no internet, no phone, no access to the outside world, and a comfy bed, 68 degrees at night. Because I always go to sleep. It's too hot in my house, and I like sleeping in 68 degrees. And that's it. I don't need a lot for it to be ideal. But that, man, now I want to go away where there's no people and no internet.
You know what? It sounds like stillness to me. Like the ability to be still, but to still, because like even when you think about nature, like you could be standing still, but things are still like you could still be so present from a sensory perspective, like with the wind and just the colors. Um, and like the smells. And so that it just sounds like calmness to me as I look at my pictures of the beach and the ocean from my house.
Getting away from this culture of constantly being overstimulated. And that's what I was when I was on Adderall. But I find now, like even now, I'm more aware of the stimulation and I start to shut down because I don't have a drug to push me through it anymore. So to have a place where you can go to get away from everything, responsibility, internet, all that, and just decompress. Because that's when I feel God speaks the loudest because you take away all the distraction.
You can hear so much clearer.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so last thing I'll add, I was reading something. I don't have the book with me, but I was reading something and it was talking about how so often we're looking to hear the voice of God, but we go to other people to hear it. Like, okay, like let me listen to
Mm-hmm.
this sermon or let me listen to this podcast or let me talk to my friend or like somebody else tell me if what I'm hearing is what I'm hearing or what they think God is saying. And what they were saying was so often we still experience a lot of anxiousness and anxiety because we are just feeding off of the crumbs of someone else's stillness and quiet time with the Lord.
Yep. Yep.
I was like, yeah. So,
Be still and know that I am God. The beginning of the sentence.
mhm.
Be still, and we will know. We will differentiate between God's voice, and our voice, or whatever other voices are going on in our head.
Mhm. So good, Kim. So good. Well, I'm going to move into sharing a practical tip with everyone. I love to leave something that people can actually integrate into their lives to help them create the stillness that we've been talking about. So today's practical tip that I want to share with everybody is, again, a cool way to help you center yourself, to create a space of stillness and calmness and give you an opportunity to do some self-reflection or just internal assessment, right? And so what I like to recommend to people who may find it difficult to center is guided journaling. And so there are so many guided journals available. I've picked up one. It's actually called Soul Therapy. It is by Jacqueline. I don't want to butcher her name, but I'll put it in the show notes. I think it's Kademian. And so basically, she has a prompt, and it's just a one question prompt that will spark thought about yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you as an individual. I'll just give you one suggestion or one prompt that she has in here. It says, "We are in the world. Where in the world makes you feel the happiest? Where is your safe place?" So you just start
So
jotting. You
good.
know, it takes you to a focal point.
Mm-hmm.
So even like when I'm thinking about that, where am I the happiest? Sometimes we're not even attuned enough to ourselves to know what brings us joy. And
100%.
so
I
speaking,
used to go numb, and I did have to relearn what does bring me joy now in this season. Who am I when I'm not on this drug? And it was so hard to journal, which usually comes easy to me. So I actually did go and I bought a guided journal to
I love the way you say that. The tangled thoughts, the
tangled
chaos
thoughts, the
that
chaos. There was lots of
is
it.
going
There's
on.
still a lot of.
To your point, sometimes we journal because I'm a journaler too. Sometimes we journal, but we're journaling like about the chaos, right? We're journaling about like, oh my goodness, I really need this to work. I've tried this thing, it didn't work out. What am I going to do next? We're journaling sometimes about external, superficial things,
Mhm.
and sometimes we need some assistance to kind of go internal. And so I love that. I love that. And so that's my
Yeah.
um tip for this podcast. I hope that you hope that it's helpful and would love to hear some of the things that you guys are using as well. And as always, please remember to like, subscribe, and share. So I am thankful that Kim was able to join us today. She gave us so many valuable jewels and techniques and really shared a part of her journey and her story that I know resonated with you all today. Kim, I'd love for you to share how everyone can stay connected with you.
Sure. So, a couple of different ways. If you want to go through our website, it's sophrosonyhealthcoaching.com. That is SOPHROSYNE, healthcoaching.com. You can also email me at Kimberly at sophrosonyhealthcoaching.com.
Can I just say I love this new Kimberly?
Thank you.
She's so chill. She is like relaxing. I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, guys, it's been another episode of Blessed Girl Summer. Remember that the best gift that we can give ourselves is to be intentional about securing our peace. We have the ability to make any season of our lives a blessed girl season. It's all about our mindset and it's all about the intentionality and the actions that we take on a daily basis. So until next time, be well and be at peace. Talk to you guys later.